Yeah, what's going on? Man, I was watching this movie called Naked Lunch, and it's like there's this philosophy I call it. It's bugged out, thugged out, and it's definitely it portrays it really good. It's kind of like this effect I see in real life. It's called like I call it Toontown effect. It's where like stuff gets really wacky, uh, and the negative side of the spiritual thing like this goes haywire, and like gremlins and vampires and all these like like forces just try to creep in and somehow make bring about like negative consequences. And it's like, well, see, the thing about Roger Rabbit was is that they were in the real world, but they would see cartoony stuff. But then they could go through this tunnel, like this warp, like this the wormhole, dimensional kind of shift. They could also go to Toontown, where it was the humans could go into the cartoon world. I kind of see this as an allegory for like dimensional, by going into the spiritual understanding of things. See, the dark forces also give people spiritual understandings of things, as well as does the Word of God shed light on spiritual things. So in a way, you are entering into this kind of ethereal dimension that you can kind of go and see the Sheol thing going on. You can see the kingdom of heaven going on all at the same time. And at the same time, actually your stream of time, reality, dimension, whatever it is. And they kind of allude to it in that movie there. And I kind of see it now. And it's like, it's really like this wacky, bugged out, thugged out, paranoia, kind of like scientific engineering, like control, like behavioralism, conditioning, modification techniques to acclimate people to living in this world that is just like a blatant sick joke hypocrisy. It's right there in plain sight. All this the spiritual message that, it's kind of like the bad guys are gloating all the time in front of everyone and kind of just really like slapping someone around with a wet tea bag kind of a thing, and just like really rubbing it in. It's kind of like when someone gets a touchdown and they spike the ball. But it's really weird, man. There's that other movie. It was called. It was called Bug, and this guy was at like something lake, which is a military base out in the middle of the frickin' desert. Can't remember what lake it's called, but it's called something lake. Because I actually looked it up, and it's like this guy's like doing drugs, and he's like, they have the whole room full of tinfoil, and this dude's like hiding from synth Terminator type, like ran away from the mental ward thing, and basically these guys just burned themselves up inside this house, and there's helicopters flying over the top of them harassing them, like it's alluding to gang stalking and strange experimental freaking programs. And the other theme in it is that this movie they're doing like they're shooting up bug killer, and it reminds me once again, it's that same theme of the Joker slipping chemicals into regular products. It's just like toothpaste got fluoride in it. Well, fluoride actually eats holes in your brain. You know what I'm saying? Why would they? And it actually makes your teeth brittle. Why would they intentionally do that? It's like the Joker. They're like 9 out of 10 government-sponsored doctors say you should use this product kind of a thing, dude. It's a kind of a societal looking the other way about things, and kind of feeling like if I don't pay attention, it's not going on. Kind of cognitive dissonance. It's the same thing. Like the government is actually the ones who created crack, LSD, whole bunch of drugs. They've actually used drugs to take down nations in times previous. So, and they're doing it now, and it's like the fish rots from the head. So if the body of the fish is corrupted, it's because the leadership basically was first corrupt. And a lot of times you find out there's all these kind of like double standard, hypocritical, kangaroo court de facto, apostate, and what's that other one? Apartheid type of rules and regulations are imposed around the planet, but yet they pretend that it's not going on. They look the other way. You know what I'm saying? And come to find out, it's like, listen, it's never just random. It wasn't just an accident that chemical got released. It was some kind of experiment. Never let a good crisis go to waste. You look at BP oil spill. They did it intentionally because environmental cleanup pays real good money, basically. So you find a lot of these kind of, like, same thing, like all the cancer detection devices basically cause cancer. So it's like, if you keep looking, by the third or fourth visit, you'll find it, because it was actually by looking for it, you caused it, triggered it. And it's a hustle. You can see that it's partial, that they don't treat everyone the same, that actually they're really judgmental there. Who gets the good treatment and who don't. They really discriminate. And it's the same thing, like when they use drugs as a psychological weapon, or chemicals like covertly in different products that have effects, physiological effects, or drug-like effects. So, and this whole bugged out, thugged out, to living all paranoid, because listen, being paranoid and always thinking and always like being afraid, it's like every time your fight or flight and your adrenal is triggered, it's like your body goes into this, and it burns up all the fuel. All your reserves of good nutrients get kind of just thrown out of whack. You actually have to regroup, reboot from that, because if you go on, you're actually carrying this. It's like after the adrenaline runs out, it turns into a bad chemical, a deficit. So in a way, they're triggering your adrenals to fight and flight all the time, that it's slowly, it's wearing out the adrenal, or causing it to malfunction to where it can be triggered, dumped, and then it's like if you can trigger and dump it, and then that person's in a weakened state. You trigger them, they dump it, you do that 10 times in a row, person will be all worn out, and then you can get them at the end. So it's like, that's the way all these the way that they do this thing, how it works. The damage is done from actually what they did, but then the worry and all the thinking and the shock that comes from it helps to finish you off. And it's like that movie Apocalypto. They seen this group of people displaced. He was like, those people that came through infected you with the fear. And that's kind of like what it is. You trigger this fear, trauma, and this constant fight or flight, defensiveness, perceived attacks, aggression, hostility. That it actually triggers people to go kind of like postal batshit. Everyone has a breaking point where they break down, get mad, or they react like really explosively. Like if they're provoked, and that's the thing, they know this, and they do it intentionally. And so they give you something to be angry about. So even if you go about it the wrong way, even though you was righteous, still turns out wrong in the end. So that's what they're counting on a lot of time, how they patsy people.